Jim Piccola's in here. The lieutenant governor in, and it looks like the county is they're stepping up with money for flood victims.
Oh yeah,
which I think is going to happen because nobody has flood insurance, right?
Yeah. The governor is really behind all this, and he's and like you said, sending the lieutenant governor and then all of our local officials. It was devastating seeing some of these people through the area. So.
And there's still, some people are still, still digging out their basements. Some had their basements just completely destroyed, their properties destroyed through this. How does this keep happening every year? And is there a fix? Is there a way to design? Are we developing too much? And this is why we're having these flooding problems. What can we do?
I think it's a combination of things. Like with that, but again, all spring and early summer here, we've been inundated by a lot of rain. The ground is saturated, and you have these bursts. These are supposed to be these 100-year storms that seem to be coming every year.
It does seem that way.
So, but there are things that we're looking at. All the different state agencies and local municipalities to see what we can do to minimize these impacts to these people.
Okay, so I hate to be the guy that asks the question, but you've heard people. Everybody on social media, they're all focusing in on the arterial. So all the money put in there, and how is it that just, what do you say to those people? So who the first thing they're going to say is, terrible design. They designed it wrong. They did something wrong. How do you respond to that?
When we designed the arterial, it was designed to all the standards that that we know that we we go to. The inlets were designed to a 10-year, what they call a 10-year acceptance. Mm-hmm. The ones that are in lower areas were a 50-year acceptance. There was really no major changes to where the drainage pattern was.
Right.
But anything that we have our own system that we felt worked very well, because as soon as it stopped raining, that system drained that water out very quickly. And then where we could, we did separation between the combined, which was both sanitary and storm. We separated what we could, and what we couldn't, we made better.
Yeah. So
it definitely, I think, worked very well. Again, with the ground being so saturated and this water running off, I sent Andrew a couple of videos where it was coming off of between Lincoln Ave and the intersection of Noyes, Nail Creek up just north of Burstone Road Bridge was overrunning, just running down the arterial like it was a river. And it just overwhelmed the system. And, once the system was able, it stopped raining and that stuff started settling, the system took care of it.
But it was amazing when you really look around and you see, like, over Big Apple Music. That was awful in there. Yeah. The next day, J.K. Lumber, all in there. Yeah. The next day, it was gone. Everything was it's like it never had happened before.
Right.
Other than the mud that it was.
Other than the mud that was left, and those businesses that were on the other side of Big Apple, down in that plaza, I don't know how they survived that, because there was, it was going up 6 feet up there. But down on the arterial, do you have to put some of those, we call them, are they Jersey barriers? Is that those concrete?
Yes. Yep.
That's what they're called. So I got to tell you, it kept you could build a canal with those. It seemed like it kept the water in. Yeah. What is there something you're going to look at for down the road to say, boy, we're going to have to put gaps in that to allow the water to escape, or does it stay the way it is?
We'll definitely look into that. There is talk about it. We're going to try to see what we can do, with the water coming from, like, say, the west side of Genesee Street over to the arterial.
Yeah.
Working with the city and the other local officials there to see what we can do with possibly Nail Creek and, trying to keep that water, from getting to that area of the arterial.
And, of course, the people who, no downtown hospital people were like, look here's another reason why the hospital can't go downtown. Ambulance could never have gotten in there. How do you respond to that?
Well, I was out there and riding around, through the arterial project, which also is Riscony Street, and the Riscony Street was not flooded.
Yeah.
That drained very well in that area. So,
all right.
There was definitely ponding. I mean, there was ponding everywhere.
Everywhere. There was, well, this is rain like, it came down and then just continued to come down. It reminds me of this was very much like the storm 4 years ago, but Utica seemed to be hit harder than the Valley this time.
Right. And, we do have our 5S project that's going to start up next spring. So that'll give us definitely an opportunity. And I know that we're going to be going through that whole drainage system all the way from Odd to Broad. So that'll help.
This is an idea, and it might come out as a poor question. Is it possible, you see, like, when they were doing, I know they were doing adding businesses over by the mall, and they said there has to be so much green space and runoff area. Is that something that the DOT ever looks at, that when we do I know that you're just replacing what was already there. This isn't brand new, the arterial. But is there ever a time where you have to have like a runoff pond or an area for drainage? Because we talk about, you said 100-year storms, but it seems like it happens every couple of years now.
Yeah.
Is that ever something that's an option that's looked at?
Oh, absolutely. In all our designs, we look at that. We have retention ponds, for, depending but like say on the 5S project, we're doing what they call a road diet. So there is going to be opportunity for more green space through that corridor there. So
yeah.
I really was surprised at Sangertown. The story years ago was, well, Sangertown, it's never going to last because it's built on a swamp and it's sinking. It'll be gone by 87. And, here we are in 2017.
30 years ago.
And it's still there. And through all that flooding, there was not a bit of flooding going on at Sangertown. There is, you talk about that green space, that's where all that water went, but the parking lots, none of that. There seemed to be no flooding there. So that seemed to be designed the way it was supposed to be designed, and it worked that way.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what those retention ponds do. You have all that parking lot area, and that usually drains into those retention ponds where it fills up and then it settles out slowly and, enters the drainage system.
I always ask the question, and you think about this. What if it didn't stop raining? What if we had another 2 days of raining, heavy rain? I mean, it could have happened, and it could happen down the road.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things we were looking at. We were like, finally the rain would stop and you could see the water start to settle. We'd start to clean up, and then all of a sudden it rained again and go again. And it's like, oh, when's it going to stop?
We've had our first stretch of dry weather over the last 4 days or so since that storm. What if that hadn't happened?
Yeah.
And are we in any danger now? We're looking at rain today. We're looking at rain tomorrow. I don't know how heavy it's going to be, but is there still a danger? The ground is still very wet. I know the sump pump in my house is still working.
Yeah, I just walked in and it was raining. So
okay,
but the ground is
last thing you want to see these days.
Yeah, I know. It's like
no,
not again. But I mean, we'll be out there. The system, everybody's been cleaning their systems and what have you. And again, the rain, what they're predicting is not going to be that heavy, so it shouldn't be an issue for any of the system, at least on the state system right now.
And do you feel confident that based on what you saw and how the water collected in that one section of the arterial, do you feel confident that based on what you've learned from this storm, that there will be something that will be done to prevent that from happening again? Or can it not be prevented just because of Mother Nature?
Again, yeah. I mean, we're going to look at every option that we can to, make sure that doesn't happen again. Mm-hmm. But, to say that it'll never happen again, that would be very hard, especially depending on, if you get a storm, could even be worse than what we had.
Right.
Or like you said,
like I'm saying, what if it didn't stop?
It didn't stop, right? So.
And one final thing, what is it with people letting their kids go out and swim in this sewer water? Because really, that's what you're dealing with. Yeah. If a manhole cover were to pop up, it creates a vacuum. A guy in Syracuse a few years back or last year died this way. What were people thinking out there?
Yeah, that's why we tell anybody, anytime, if you're, either driving, if you see water in the roadway, do not cross, back up, try to get there another way. And again, especially like you said, if you're out walking in that, you never know. And I've seen, I'll send Andrew some pictures of manhole covers because they were blowing all over the place. Mm-hmm. And you could actually walk right through and unfortunately fall in something like that. So
where do those go down? 6, 8? 10 feet, and then it's a tunnel system.
We have some of our system, in the lower end is down 18 feet.
Wow.
And even if you step in, it's like a vacuum. It'll just
New Hartford has a sinkhole now because of flooding. Is that what's happening? So it's Oneida Street that's closed. Do you know anything about that?
I did see that on the news.
That's not something you guys are working on.
Nope. We still have 2 closures right now, Route 177 out there in Frankfort in the Gorge area, and Route 233 just in Clinton between College Hill Road and 12B.
All right.
We're hoping that we get the 171 open by the end of this week.
Okay.
Guys are working very hard. And the other one's going to be a little bit more long-term, but it's my understanding they found a precast culvert, so we're looking hopefully in the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks we should have that section roadway open again.
All right. Crazy times. And they used to be called 100-year storms.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we can call them that anymore.
Now it's this is the Boilermaker pre-race party.
Yeah,
that's what it's
crazy.
become.
I hate to say it, but it gets around graduation time, Boilermaker time, and this seems to be when this stuff hits. So it's crazy. All right, Jim, thanks for sitting in the seat. We appreciate it a lot.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, quick break.